Most people who know the Mahabharata know Duryodhana as the villain, the man who humiliated Draupadi in open court, who stole the Pandavas' kingdom, who rejected Krishna himself when he came as a peace messenger, who chose a war he knew would destroy everything and still didn't stop. So imagine the shock when people find out he went to Swarga, heaven, after he died. People assume it's a mistake, a loophole, some cosmic bureaucratic error that slipped through. It wasn't. And what the Mahabharata actually says about why and what happens after is one of the most sophisticated moral frameworks ever written, and almost nobody talks about it. When Duryodhana fell on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, something extraordinary happened in the heavens. Gandharvas played celestial music, Apsaras sang his glory, Siddhs chanted, "Praise be to King Duryodhana," not sarcastically, not ironically, genuinely, because Kurukshetra operated under a specific cosmic law. Any warrior who dies fighting on that sacred ground attains Swarga, regardless of which side they were on, regardless of what they did before. Duryodhana died fighting with full warrior's resolve. He earned that entry. Now here's where most people stop the story. And that's exactly the problem, because the Mahabharata doesn't stop there. The final book of the Mahabharata, the Svargarohana Parva, lays out the afterlife system in plain, uncomfortable detail. The rule is this: a person who did more wrong than right in their life gets heaven first, then hell. A person who did more right than wrong goes through hell first, then heaven. Let that land for a second. Duryodhana's time in Swarga was exactly what the text calls it, a warrior's reward for how he died, not a pardon for how he lived. It was temporary, a prepayment, a brief taste of honor before the full accounting of his life begins. And the Pandavas, the righteous ones, they went through a brief passage of hell before reaching permanent heaven, because they had earned eternity, but still carried the weight of individual sins committed along the way. Even Yudhishthir, the most dharmic of them all, had to experience hell temporarily, because he once told a half-lie about Ashwatthama during the war. The system doesn't grade on a curve, it grades on the complete ledger. Now think about what this framework is actually saying. Your death does not erase your life. One courageous moment at the end doesn't undo decades of adharma. What it buys you is time, a temporary reward, before the full accounting happens. You can die bravely and still owe a debt for how you lived. But here's the part that hits even harder. The reverse is equally true. A life of genuine dharma is not cancelled by one moment of weakness. You might stumble. You might carry a sin you are ashamed of. You might pass through darkness. But you come out the other side. The system doesn't punish a good person forever for one bad moment. It doesn't reward a bad person forever for one good death. Everything, eventually, balances. Just not on your preferred timeline. That is a much harder, much more uncomfortable idea than karma gets you in the end. Because karma doesn't promise speed. It promises accuracy. We live in a world obsessed with the ending. We want the villain to fall publicly, loudly. Right now, we want to see the good person rewarded, this lifetime, this year, this quarter. And when that doesn't happen, we call the universe broken. But the Mahabharata is telling us something we don't want to hear. The universe isn't broken. You are just checking the wrong timestamp. Duryodhana in Swarga looks like injustice until you zoom out. The Pandavas in hell looks like injustice until you see where they end up. The full picture is never available at the moment you are most desperate to see it. And maybe that's the actual point. Maybe the framework isn't designed to satisfy us. It's designed to free us from the addiction of watching other people get what they deserve right now. Because the moment you stop waiting for the accounting to happen on your timeline, you become free to just live right, build right, be right, not for the reward, not for the punishment you want to see, but because the ledger is real, and it always balances. The Mahabharata isn't a story about good people winning and bad people losing. It's a story about how everything eventually balances, just not when you want it to. That's a much harder idea, and a much more important one. If this hit different, drop ledger in the comments. I want to know how many of you have been waiting for a balance that's already in progress. Like, share, and I'll see you in the next one.